I just wonder what would happen if you were to start sowing into others, because it's literally the law of the harvest. Recording in progress. Hello, everyone. Welcome back to the Jennifer Allwood Show. I appreciate you guys listening to this podcast so much. We are nearing 7 million downloads, and I think we've had 6 years of recording, and you guys listen and you share and you subscribe and you tell others about it, you post about it. And I thank you. I thank you so much. It means something to me. So thank you. And for those of you who have taken the time to leave a review, that even just, you bless me even further. And so just a little bit of side note about podcasting, just things that people, may not know, is that it's impossible for you guys could not look at my podcast and see, how many people listen to it. You can't look and see how many downloads it has or anything like that. But what you can do is you can look and see how many podcast episodes I've had over the course of how long and how many reviews there are. So whenever someone asks me to be a guest on their podcast, which by the way, I love doing, the way that we determine if I'm going to be a guest on someone else's podcast is we will make sure it's in alignment, in terms of audiences. And then we'll look to see, okay, how many episodes do they have? Is it just a few, or are they, have they been consistent with this for years and years? Only, I think the statistic is only 5% of all podcasters or something ever get over 3 episodes. So, if it's the very beginning stages, it's usually a hard no, unless I have a personal relationship with them. We look then at how many reviews does someone have, because that's a good indicator. If they only have 1 or 2 reviews, then the podcast is pretty new, or it just doesn't have a whole lot of downloads. So what I'm trying to say is when you guys leave a review, it matters, because it's like a signal to people who I have maybe asked to be a guest on my podcast. It's letting them know, hey, we've got a lot of reviews. In fact, how many reviews do we even have right now? I would have to go look. I don't even know. I think we're nearing 2,000, but don't quote me on that. But so it's helpful to me. Thank you. If ever you've gotten things out of my podcast, I just want you to know that I gladly give it all away. And yet when you do something like leave a review or share it with someone, it feels so good on my end. So thank you for that. All right. So with that being said, we're talking about sowing and reaping in business today. This could be a really easy, great segue that I didn't even plan actually, but I want to talk about sowing and reaping in business, because there are a lot of people who are small business owners right now who are really in need of fill in the blank in their business. So they're in need of sales. They're in need of more time. They're in need of some help. They're in need of some ideas. They're in need of, having a website made. They're in need of breakthrough. They're in need of clarity, etc. And I think that sometimes we think that reaping and sowing matters in terms of us tithing at church, or serving or giving. And yes, it absolutely does, because it's a biblical concept. But did you know that even the world believes in the idea of reaping and sowing? They just don't know it. Even people outside of the Christian faith. So there's the golden rule that you learn literally when you're a kindergartner: treat others the way that you want to be treated, right? That is literally the concept of reaping and sowing. So even if you and I don't share Christian faith, I mean, first of all, you and I are so good together. We're good. I'm giving you you're all good with me eyes here on YouTube. But it's just interesting to me that the world agrees with so many biblical concepts, and that they don't even realize it's biblical. So, okay, the reason I decided I wanted to do a podcast on this topic is because I had something really cool happen in the last few weeks, and I wanted to tell you about it. So, at the beginning of October, our daughters, who are both in public school, have a 4-day weekend. They don't really call it fall break, but I guess you could call it fall break. There's a lot of you that are in Georgia and Nashville, and you guys all, I think, refer to it as fall break. And I know this because we rent out Bougie on the Beach every year. Sorry, I'm getting comfortable here on the podcast. I'm taking off my shoes. I'm putting my feet up. But we rent the Bougie on the Beach, our Airbnb down in Florida, out to people from Tennessee and Georgia, Alabama, etc., all the time in the month of October because you guys are on fall break. So anyway, we were going to go down, Jason and I, and Ava and I. And then, when you have a 16-year-old daughter, sometimes things come up, things like work, because she has a job, things like just wanting to do stuff with friends. Also, Ava has decided she's graduating a year ahead of schedule. And so that makes for some extra homework, etc. So we're, not comfortable with leaving our 16-year-old home. So Jason had an opportunity to golf and he was like, I'll stay home with Ava and you take Ari if you want and head to Florida for the 4-day weekend. I'm like, winner, winner, chicken dinner. If you have not ever listened to my podcast episode where we talk about me traveling a lot without my husband, let me see if I can find that. Hang on just a second. Jennifer Allwood, I should have already found this for you. Podcast, traveling alone. Let's see what happens if I Google that. I think it was episode 416, 416. So you can Google that afterward. Just type in Jennifer Allwood podcast, episode 416. Okay. So anyway, Ari and I were going to go down. Well, there had been so much kind of back and forth, if you will. Like, are we going to go? Okay, we're all going to go. Are we not going to go? Okay, we're not going to go. None of us are going to go. And so in that happening, what happened was I went into like our reservation service for Bougie on the Beach. And essentially I had that time blocked for our personal family usage. And then I was like, let me just open it up because maybe we're just not supposed to go since the whole thing's feeling messy. We were trying to find somebody to watch the dogs when all four of us were going to go. It's a whole thing. And you have a business and a lot of kids. And, I know we've got 2 kids out of the house and only 2 still at home, but there's just a lot of moving parts, as you know. So I forgot that I essentially opened our condo back up for someone to book. Well, I was telling somebody the other day, this is a classic example of what I have said a million times, both to my coaching clients, my family, my friends on the podcast, is that I can only get about 80% right. About 80% of the time, I am going to do things and they turn out correctly. But about 20% of the time, I'm going to show up for the dentist with one of my kids on the wrong day. I'm going to book us a trip to Naples, Florida, and have told my kids we were going to go see an underground city because I actually had been Googling Naples, Italy. Like 20% of the time, I'm just going to get all of my details absolutely incorrect. I think it drives my family absolutely batty. And I think they've also just come to know, this is just mom. I can't get it all right, guys. And I try so hard. I think the other day, I can't, let me think of the example. I don't even know what example the other day. I literally looked at my husband. I'm like, I promise you, I tried so hard to make sure I had all the details right. And I just can't. And so I think that it is probably adult ADHD to a huge degree. Also, I don't feel bad about it. I don't shame myself about it because my brain is, although very chaotic, also a whole lot of fun. So if you can relate to that at all, give yourself some grace. Okay. So I had forgotten that I had opened up our condo to see if it could possibly rent since we were back and forth on going anyway. All right. So it's 2 days before Ari and I are getting ready to go down there. I just happened to get on to our reservation service for Bougie on the Beach. And I'm like, oh no. Oh no, 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 no. We've got our flights, we've got all of our plans. Ari and I do try to go, we just went to Florida, her and I alone, while Jason and Ava were on a missions trip to Mexico in July. It was her and my birthday. And those are good times for us because her and I really need that bonding time together. If anybody needs that with her, it is her and I. And so, and I should do a whole podcast episode just on that sometime. About adopting non-infant children who are already very bonded to mother figures. And then you show up as a new mother. You know what I mean? There's a whole thing there. So I'm like, dang it. Okay, well, I guess we'll just cancel our tickets. And my husband's like, no, you're not going to cancel your tickets. Just find somewhere else out there to stay. And I'm like, the whole point is that we have a free place to stay because we own Bougie on the Beach, right? And sorry if you're watching on YouTube, I'm literally having to blow my nose right now. But I'm like, I'm not gonna, pay the money to find another place. I know that, it was like a $1,600 stay for somebody to be at our place for 3 nights. And so I wasn't going to spend that going to someone else's place. And so Jason and I, we kind of argue back and forth about not argue. It was just me being like, no, I don't need to spend the money. And him being like, Jennifer, go, because he knows I just come back from Florida. Such a nicer person, relaxed, all the things. And if you never listened to my podcast talking about why I need to be around water and why water will give you so many great ideas in life and business. You need to go find that one next. So anyhow, I finally listened to my husband. I'm like, fine, okay, we will find someplace else to stay. So he sends me a couple of different condos in the area. And I'm like, I don't want that one and that one. The truth is, I just really want to stay in our building because I love where we're located in between Rosemary Beach and Seaside. We can ride bikes in either direction and be at restaurants. I just want to be in our building where I know like the beach attendants, I know how the umbrellas and everything work. And so I call like our reservation people and I say to them, okay, first of all, remind me that I can't like just cancel the people's vacation who are coming to our place in 2 days, right? And she's like, no, Jennifer, you can't do that. First of all, that would be unkind. And I'm like, I know. Second of all, like Airbnb or VRBO, whoever they booked it through, they really ding you for that. So she's like, you can't do that. And I'm like, okay. And then I'm like, all right, I just thought I'd call and check. And she goes, but let me see if there's any other units in the building. Our building has 24 condos. Let me see if there's anybody else that's maybe theirs is open that we manage because we have our own management company and you can have anybody you want manage your condo. And she goes, okay. Unit number, whatever, it's just a couple doors down from you. Their condo is actually available those days. And I'm like, really? And she goes, let me call them real quick. And I'm like, yes, call them and just tell them my situation. Ask them what they would charge me, to stay down there. Happy to pay whatever it is. Hopefully they'll give me a good deal since it's this late in the game and it looks like it wouldn't rent for them anyway. And in case you don't know this, like when you're renting an Airbnb and a VRBO, the longer out you reserve them, the more it's going to cost you. The more last minute you rent something, usually the cheaper it will be. And it's because it's supply and demand, right? So I'm like, let me know, what they're going to charge me, whatever. So I get a call back from her a little bit later, and I'm like, okay, what'd they say? And she goes, well, I called them, and they said, you know what? If the girl needs a place to stay, just give the girl a place to stay. They don't need to. She doesn't need to pay anything. Just pay the cleaning fee. And I'm like, wait, what? And she's like, yeah. She goes, they just said, go ahead and like totally let you stay. I'm like, I literally got tears in my eyes, friends. And the reason I got tears in my eyes is because I'm going to try to figure out a way to say this. And I hope that you hear my heart. I'm like explaining this in just complete humility. I just want to share with you kind of the goodness of God. But when she told me that, I thought, I don't know what to do with almost that generosity because I can remember when Jason and I did not have any money when the kids were small. I remember when the boys were small, especially before we had Ava, and we were broke. And I can remember, calling Dave Ramsey's 800 hotline and asking him if we should declare bankruptcy. And I can remember having $30,000 on one credit card and wondering if when we get to the grocery store, if it was going to be declined because it was maxed out again. I can remember in 2008, 2009, when the housing market really crashed. Jason had just gotten his real estate license like 10 minutes before that happens. I owned a painting company. And so we worked for a lot of like home builders and new construction in Kansas City, and they were all on the struggle bus. And so we were like hurting financially. And I can remember Jason's aunt being like, hey, why don't you take your kids on vacation down in Cape Coral, Florida, where she owned a property, and just pay us the cleaning fee? I can remember my friend Allison from church being like, hey, take the kids, go to our lake house at Table Rock Lake, or was it Branson? Anyway, like the Ozarks. And she's like, just pay us the cleaning fee. Like I remember so much when people helped us to be able to take our kids and go on vacation and just would say, just pay the cleaning fee. And I can remember thinking, I want for Jason and I to be able to do that someday. So, as many of you know, my business exploded back in 2018 and went from, $500,000 a year to $2 million a year in just a 10 days period time. We've had some incredible favor, some great luck, and I've had great coaches. And so business, has been good for a long, long time. So when we bought Bougie on the Beach originally 3 years ago, and you can look it up at BOUJEE on the beach.com. It is on Airbnb. We and VRBO, and you can rent direct, but we had no intention of using that as a rental property. We bought that as a second home. Our intention was to be able to go down once a month or so with the kids and just be able to kind of get away. And then we had those of you who follow me on social media, and with 700,000 social media followers, I would get DMs consistently or comments on pictures. Are you going to rent this out? Are you going to rent this out? So I remember going to Jason and being like, I don't know, should we see what happens? I don't know how I feel about people, being all up in our place and touching all of our things. And I really like completely did the remodel of Bougie on the Beach to fit our aesthetic. So it's very pink and blue and loud colors. And so most Airbnbs people don't really do that. Right. And so I'm like, I don't know, will anybody even stay there because it's, all bright colors and it's totally my taste. And anyhow, I'm sharing that with you because we had no intention of originally renting it out. The more people asked, the more we started to consider it and realized, okay, if we could just cover like the mortgage on the place every month, like that would be super smart of us, right? It's essentially we're building equity in a property while other people are paying our monthly bills on it. And we're just being able to use it when we want. Like that, all of a sudden it was like a light bulb, like, oh my goodness. And so we started renting it out in 2022. And I know in 2022, we let 11 families go and stay completely for free, just paid the cleaning fee. In 2023, last year, we let 9 families go and just stay for free and pay the cleaning fee. People who had recently, we've had like 2 people we know who have lost a spouse. We've had people who were needing to really just go work on their marriage. We've had people who haven't been able to take family vacations in a long time. We've had people who are on staff at our church that we just want to bless. We've had just people that we felt like, you know what, these are friends. I just want them to go and enjoy themselves. And so when I got the call back from Erin, and when she said, Jen, they just said you can just go ahead and stay in their place for free and just pay the cleaning fee. And I knew full good and well they could have made about $1,600 on those 3 days. I was just absolutely overcome with like gratitude because I thought we have given our property away to so many people in the same way. And all of a sudden, this is the first time that it's came back to us. And we never gave it away with the intention of getting anything back. We gave it away believing with everything in us that it's because people gave to us in the past and that it was the right thing to do. And we love being generous with the gifts God has given us. And so, again, I'm not sharing that to boast, but I want you to get the point of telling you this story. This story is essentially what reaping and sowing is. There were people that really sowed into us when we didn't have any money, and hopefully they have reaped some sort of benefit from that. We have sown into, like I said, 11 families 2 years ago, 9 families last year. I'd have to look and see how many families this year, but I'm guessing it's comparable, 9, 10, something like that. And we've tried to sow into their family and their peace and their life and their health and their family and their mental well-being. And then to see that come back at a time when I was like, crap, I really messed this up, like last minute for people I don't know. Like, I don't know what to do with that sort of generosity. It was overwhelming. It made me cry. And I just thought, gosh, I want to talk about this on a podcast because it really is the golden rule. It really is treating others as you want to be treated. It's biblical in Matthew 7:12. It says, in everything, do to others what you want them to do to you. And so I think a lot of times when I'm thinking about reaping and sowing, I think about things like, tithing, giving, etc. I think about things like parenting. Like I can remember years and years and years ago, and this is kind of personal to share, but I will anyway. But I was really, really close to my grandmother on my mother's side. My grandma Beeson, I loved and adored her. At one point in my life, I lived with them for a couple of years when I was very small, and they were very important to me. And I can remember when grandma got older and grandpa was gone, we lived 4 hours away from each other, and I would have her come down to Kansas City on occasion and stay. And either my mom would drive halfway and bring her to me, and we'd meet each other and bring her back to Kansas City with us, or my aunt or a cousin or something. And there were times, of course, when it wasn't always very convenient because I was running a painting company. So there were times grandma would have to go with me to job sites, and I would bring her a lawn chair, and she would sit in the lawn chair while I talked to the builder, while I talked to the homeowners, while I talked to the women who were painting for me. And, was it always convenient or good timing or anything? It wasn't. But I also remember one time I was driving in my truck. I remember that old, gosh, I had that vehicle for like 15 years. It was, what was that? A Suburban. It was long enough to fit an extension ladder in it. Funny side story. Should I tell a side story? No, stay focused, Jen. Okay, if you want the side story about why I had a Suburban, you let me know on YouTube in the comments or ask me on Instagram. Okay. Anyway, I can remember I was driving somewhere and I was thinking, okay, this is not very convenient because I had an appointment with a client or something, but I had grandma with me and she would stay for 4, 5, 6 days at a time. But I can remember the Holy Spirit saying to me, Jennifer, because you have taken care of her in her older years, you too will be taken care of. I remember hearing that. Sure as the Lord was sitting right there in the car with me. And so what I want to talk about today, though, is that the idea of reaping and sowing, it's not just in terms of how we treat others or, giving or parenting. Like it actually applies to business as well. And there's, like I said at the beginning of this podcast, there's a lot of you that need something in your business right now. You need sales, you need mentoring, you need knowledge. So I want to encourage you today is that whatever it is that you are needing, I want you to get off of this podcast when we're done here today and begin to go sow. Okay. This is not to manipulate blessings. This is not to try to manipulate God into doing something for you. This is none of that. But what it will do is it will help to take your mind off of yourself, and it will just it will make you just feel differently about your current situation. It's not necessarily to try to make something happen in your favor, but it's to do everything possible that you can do to invest in others. The Bible says, to whom much is given, much will be required. And there are times when I've thought, okay, Lord, I really don't want to give that week away because it's like a prime week and, at a prime time down in Florida or something like that. And I'll still feel like the Lord is saying, come on now, Jen. And I have to remind myself, okay, to whom much is given, much will be required. And even if you haven't been given, a rental property, we've all been given knowledge, health, talent, skill, favor, dollars, etc., to some capacity, right? And so it's not to try to manipulate God into something happening, but it is to invest in a way in others, um, just to like position yourself to be in a position of being available and ready and positioned for favor and blessing. Again, not to try to manipulate God, but it feels really good to give, especially when it's an area that you used to be really in need of, or you have been in need of in your past, or in need of right now. Okay. So I'm going to give you some really, what I think are good examples, for those of you who are in business. Give me just a second while I wonder what just literally happened to my eyelash. Because I'm just sitting here minding my own business. If you're watching me on YouTube right now, so sorry. And all of a sudden I feel like an eyelash is poking me. Okay. So for those of you who are in business and you're listening to this podcast episode right now, if you're really in need of like better social media reach, if you're in need of more followers, if you're in need of more comments, and I want you to go follow some new people. I want you to go comment on their things. I want you to go share their content. If you are in need of more sales, then I want you to go find a small business owner that you can buy from. And by the way, don't let anybody convince you that a huge percentage of the sellers on Amazon are small business owners. People are like, don't buy Amazon. Don't buy big box store. Well, a lot of Amazon sellers are small business owners. So there's that. Quit feeling bad about shopping on Amazon. But if you're needing sales, go buy from someone else. Go invest in, go sow in the bottom line for somebody else's business. If you want or need to hire somebody, if you need a really good employee, then make sure the ones that you already have that you're really, really treating well. Make sure also, if you currently work for a 9 to 5, but you want to, make your business your primary income, man, be a good employee because you want good employees one day, right? Give your current employer the best of you, not the leftovers, because that's what you're going to want out of your employees one day. If you want people to be honest with you, be honest with them. If you are really in need of a business mentor, find some other people to mentor. I think it was back in like 2021 maybe or so. Sometimes I feel like I'm a grandma myself when I say things like that, like back in 2017. But anyway, I can remember there were like several relationships that I had with people who were just online, right? We had not met in real life. And there were 3 women that I felt like at different times, God said, I want you to give that one. I can remember one specifically, and she's just got an incredible business right now. But I remember the Lord telling me, you give her whatever knowledge you have, and you give her whatever information she needs, and you do not ask her for $1 for it. And I was like, okay, all right. And then there were two other women that the Lord just asked me to invest my time and my knowledge and to give them with nothing in exchange. And so then when I look at like the relationship that I have with different people, when I think about even like my friendship with Lisa Bevere, and I think, Lord, how is that I am even in relationship with one of the most, published Christian authors of all time? Her and her husband have an app that, their Bible app like goes to more people in the world than anybody else. This woman knows people in every single city. And yet I can text Lisa Bevere today and she will text me back. I can ask her a question about how do I be a good mother-in-law, to our son, is getting married this summer. And I've literally called Lisa and I've been like, hey, you've married off 4 boys. Tell me how to do this well. And she has mentored me. And there's times I'm like, Lord, I wonder if that relationship would still be what it is, that I can text Lisa Bevere and ask her questions and I'm in relationship with her and I'm hoping to get to see her. So like, is it because I too have tried to mentor people and I'm just getting back what I have sowed? So if you're needing a mentor. It is a biblical example. It's Titus 2. There are people that are going to be ahead of you and you want them to reach back, right? And then you're ahead of others and you need to reach back and pull them up. It is a biblical concept. If you're in need of information, like knowledge for your business, then share knowledge with other people when they ask you. If you're in need of fresh ideas, offer to brainstorm with somebody else who you know is. Listen, there are so many business owners who hold their cards so closely. They don't want to share anything that they know. They want to make sure that there's more than enough for them before they, are gracious with anybody else, whether it's knowledge or dollars or whatever else. Listen, if you will hold some of that with your hands just kind of wide open, hold it loosely, and just allow yourself to be a funnel that things go through, I just wonder what God would do with that. I just wonder what would happen if you were to start sowing into others, because it's literally the law of the harvest. This is what every farmer knows. You put a seed in, you're going to get something out. And you have to make like a choice to put the seed in. You have to make a choice to plant, and you will reap what you sow. You can't plant apples and get like lemons. You're going to get apples. Does that make sense? And so again, like, sow whatever it is that you're needing. If you wish that you had more friends, go out and befriend someone. If you wish, that there was more kindness, you really need more kindness, go out and be kind to somebody. Again, never to manipulate God's blessings, but it will take your eyes off your own needs. It will just position you differently, make you look at circumstances differently. And you just never know what kind of blessing or favor is going to come back to you because of any sowing that you may or may not have done. So listen, I still am just like overwhelmed that that couple who I've never met before blessed me in the way that they did. It was humbling, and just also like, I probably should just send this podcast episode to them. I can't even remember their first name. Um, but when you have an opportunity to be a blessing to someone, man, take that opportunity every single time. You just never know if you're just going to blow the socks off of some woman who could more than afford to have paid for it in Kansas City, who's coming, down to that area, who made a mistake in the way that I was booking our own trip, who just wanted some one-on-one time with my daughter. You just have no idea who or what is on the other side of your obedience. So I hope that this was helpful today. I hope that this touched a nerve with some of you, and that some of you are going to start sowing some things today that you yourself are needing also. And I'm just encouraging you. I can't wait to see or to hear from you on what God does. So bless you, friends. We'll talk soon. Bye-bye. Easton Thomas, did I tell you this story? I hope I told you the story. Your mom cried like a crybaby Christian, right? I was like, what in the heck? How does that even happen? How are people so nice?